What is up, everybody, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This one is pretty much totally unscripted, and what I wanted to do here today is check out some knives that I own that for one reason or another, I have no intention of ever making a review about. Now, this is not going to encompass all knives that I own that you'll probably never see. There's definitely some like old knives that I have and stuff that I just don't really have anything to say about that I've excluded from this video. And some of these knives you've seen, you've seen them on Instagram or in like videos, just like as comparisons and stuff. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm just going to try to talk a little bit about each knife. I don't really want to spend too much time on each knife. I guess the first thing to start with are the knives that I use for my size comparisons. So you guys have seen these in almost all of my video reviews. What we have right here is an Ontario Rat 2. This one is in AUS 8 steel. It is the OD Green G10, which I really, really like. That was one of the big reasons for picking this particular Rat 2 up. I've handled the one in black, and the other colors are fine, but the green one really stood out to me as the one to own for sure. Obviously, I moved the clip over to a tip-up carry. I added this lanyard here. This was sort of like very early on in my collecting phase. Put a little bead on there and everything. And yeah, I've used this knife a ton to just like cut like fruit and stuff and do around the house stuff. It's not usually my go-to just because, well, one, it's not a flipper, which like is fine, but I'm more of a flipper guy. And then two is that, I don't know, it's just usually, I don't really use the size comparison knives because like I use them for that. And so I put them kind of in a different place than my other knives. But yeah, so I do have the Rat 2, and then this PM2 has sort of garnered a lot of interest over the last year as I've used it for size comparisons. I've had multiple people leave comments where it's like, hey, I know this video isn't about the PM2, but I have questions about your PM2. This one's starting to rust again a little bit. I've been running a dehumidifier constantly in this room. It's pretty wild how much humidity we have. But so obviously this PM2 is pretty heavily modified. I bought this off of somebody on Knife Swap on Reddit, and it was a Canadian. I didn't know the guy. He's not one of my friends. I've never spoken to him before I bought the knife, and I've never spoken to him after. So a lot of people ask me about the origins, and the truth is I just don't know. Some of the standout features, of course, that it has the dyed sort of camouflage, digital camo G10 dyed blue. It's like a very dark navy blue almost. I very much like that. It's a very... the color matches a lot of like my logo and stuff, and I just really enjoy it. We do have an acid wash on the blade here, and then I think the most notable feature is this extraordinary mirror edge. And so a lot of people like to ask me what the angle is on it. Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is I don't know. I didn't sharpen the knife. It came like this. And, it's not really useful. You'll notice there's a couple little dings in it. I don't know if you can see. I have used it to cut a couple things, but I realized quickly that that was a mistake because I have no intention of ever making it look like this again myself, and I just use it for the size comparison, so it was kind of silly to start fucking up that edge just because, it looks so good, but it's definitely not useful. It started chipping basically the first moment it touched something. So that's your answer to everybody that's just been super curious about that edge. It looks super cool. It is definitely, there's definitely a reason that you don't normally sharpen your knife like that. And then this clip is a titanium 3D machined clip, which I got from Rip's Garage Tech. Definitely go check them out if you're looking for something a little bit nicer than a spring clip on the PM2. They offer a couple different coatings and stuff. And that's also where I got the clip that I had on that 0450 that I had a little while ago. So let's get this one out of the way. Next up is going to be this Custom Knife Factory Gavco Spinner Collab, which has been modified by Tie Spectrum. That's Matt over at Tie Spectrum, who does pretty much all of my anodizing work, though I am not the one who commissioned this knife. This was completed quite a while ago and has changed hands quite a few times. And I finally won it in a raffle. So the reason I'm not reviewing this knife is because I already have a review on this knife. It's just not this particular one that's been anodized. I'm also listing this knife for sale. As of recording this video, got to fund a couple other things, but it's a super neat knife, and I just wanted to show you guys some of the awesome sort of two-tone anodizing that's going on the handle. And then this crazy polished clip. He did a really good job on that. It's a good knife. It's got a really great action. It's a fairly positive review, if I remember correctly. This knife is the Gnome. Now, some of you may know the story behind this knife. It is technically, in a sense, a clone, except there was never an original. This was a design by, I'm forgetting who. I want to say Sinkovich, but that I literally am making that up. I have no idea if I'm right or wrong. Somebody is bound to correct me in the comments. There is a famous designer / knife maker who created this design, shared it among people, I guess on social media, etc. And before the knife was ever able to be made, Chinese companies stole the design and started manufacturing clones before the original version was ever out. So I ended up purchasing this knife in a plain titanium form before I knew that story. This was not really, depending on which communities you sort of hung out around, this was or was not considered a clone, to the people in that community. So some people, when they would sell this, they would list it as a Gnome clone, and some people would just list it as a Gnome. And so I bought the knife sort of unwittingly and sent it off to get anodized in these colors, which it doesn't look very good ultimately. The anodizing job wasn't very good, but the knife is pretty freaking sweet. I honestly keep forgetting I have it. It sits in the back of a container, or like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a wooden knife case with, like a glass top. It just sort of sits in the back of there. So I keep forgetting I have it, but it's got a pretty decent action. The best part about it are definitely the ergonomics. I mean, whoever did design it made a great freaking design. It fits absolutely perfectly in the hand when you're up on this giant finger choil, which I really appreciate. And yeah, I mean, fairly smooth. It's a little titanium frame lock. Truth be told, don't really need this sitting around anymore. So if anybody wants this, I don't know, shoot me $30 or something, and you can own it. Let's get rid of that. I recently got this traditional in sort of I bought a knife from somebody, and I think they made a mistake. They forgot to ship it or something, and so as an apology, they threw this in the box. I think it might have actually been that Gavco that I showed you earlier. So as you guys know, I don't own any traditionals. And when I saw this, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. My initial thought was that I was going to give it to one of my managers or somebody, that's not into knives, but that I want to have a cutting tool. And then ultimately, I don't know, I decided I think I'm going to try to work on it. So when I got it, it was, the whole interior was completely filled with dirt and crud and dust and all kinds of crummy stuff. And when you would, exercise the lock bar by closing or opening the blades, you could hear this gritty, and it fought you the whole way. It was so bad. And it was just because the pivots sort of and the lock areas were just full of grit and grime. So I managed to clean pretty much all of that out. Some of the interior is still a little bit stained, but basically the whole interior is fairly clean now. I can do a better job, but I'm getting there. And so now the knife sort of opens and closes without any fuss. So I have some Flitz polish and some other stuff and a Dremel and some things. So I don't know. This thing doesn't really have any value to me. I don't know what it's worth. I'm sure it's just an old cheap pocket knife. But these bolsters, I've watched some videos and stuff, and I think I can make this knife basically look new. And so I want to do that. I think that would be really cool. If I manage to put in the work and all of a sudden this thing's glistening and shiny, then it'll actually be a gift that I can give somebody and be proud of giving it to them. So I'm really excited about that. This is going to be my little project. This is sort of my knife collecting equivalent of buying a project car among, owning Ferraris such as this Thorburn. So, nice little segue there. You guys have seen this knife. You all know what it is. This is my Thorburn L36M, but truth be told, I already had a review on my previous L36M, so I'm never going to make a video on this knife. Now, I did do a Andre Thorburn showcase a little while back, and this, knife did make a debut there, but a lot of people, didn't watch that video. It was a bit longer and everything, so I just thought, just once and for all, I finally wanted to say, this is a knife that I own. Here it is. Look at it. It's sweet. And I just want to give you guys a quick little glimpse of all the glistening sort of finish work that's going on here. He really just makes such an exquisite knife. It's bonkers. And this knife has a really great backstory to it. I recommend you go check out that other video if you're interested in hearing it. But the way I was able to come into ownership of this knife is one of my favorite stories. And the reason that when people ask me if you had to get rid of every single knife in your collection except one, which one would you keep? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at it. This is the knife. So let's get that out of the way and take a look at, that's right, tovarishworks has a Dejo. Dejo, am I even saying it right? You guys have seen these around. You know what they are. When I was getting into collecting, the idea of owning a custom knife was very appealing. But the idea of spending more than $100 on a knife was not appealing. So, what did the little Tyler do? He made a custom knife by Googling custom knives and then clicking on Dejo and then going, hey, look, this is a really easy UI. Hey, look, this knife is only $69. Look, it says my name. Look, it has a feather on it because it looks like a pen and I'm a writer. That's pretty cool. And so I bought it. And I've never, ever, ever carried it. Obviously, I've never used it. That was not the intention. But hey, it's got my name. It's got something that's related to a non-knife hobby of mine. And I don't know. It's kind of cool. It functions pretty well. It doesn't have any, lock stick or anything. It works. It locks up very well, as a matter of fact. It fits in the hand fine. Obviously, if you were going to go use it, it would basically break in half. The frame, the whole blade is just held together by a pivot. There's no structure to it at all. So, I don't know. I was trying to make a point that you could use it as a knife if you wanted to, but I think it would actually make a terrible knife. I feel like I would break it almost immediately. But yeah, so whatever. I own it. I wanted to share that fact, even though it's one I'm a little bit embarrassed of. The next thing to talk about, this, I made that fixed blade video, and there's no fixed blades here because I plan to review a lot of those in the end. But this knife, this is a Kiradashi, which I got from Night Haxon on Reddit, who is, Suani Is it Suwannee River knives or just Suwannee knives? I don't know. I'll have to put a link in the description or something. I know this guy more as a Reddit user than as a knife maker. So as he's become more popularized and we've started to see his knives on things like Blade Forums and USN and stuff, to me, he's just some guy I know on Reddit, but he's very much a knife maker. He tends to make very small fixed blade knives, pinch grip knives, stuff like that, little stuff for around the house, lime cutters, he's very well known for. So, again, as I was getting into collecting, he made a post, usually when he does a sale post on Reddit, which is one of the main places that he sells his knives. He'll make a couple batches of a couple models. So he'll say, here's 5 finger toads and here's 5 lime cutters. And then maybe he'll do a couple other cool things. And then usually there's like one unique knife to the sale. And so in the case of this particular sale, it was this Kiradashi, which you can see is some sort of core Damascus. He told me, I have it written somewhere, I'm sure, but just a general core Damascus of some sort. This is his stamped logo, little skull. And this it didn't cost me too much money, and it's a solid rod. And I gotta say, when you put it in the hand, I mean, it is, a traditional shape. You can see here the shaping in the knife. So your finger pinches right in here, just like a pen, and you could effectively inscribe just as easily as you could write. Or use it to do any cutting task, whether that's opening something or what have you. I'm just stabbing myself with it while I'm at it. But I never saw a way where this was going to end up in any video of its own. I just don't have anything to say about it because I never use it, because I think it's just beautiful. It's a really neat piece. It was collectible to me because, I sort of felt familiar with who the maker was. And ultimately, I absolutely love owning this thing. I also thought this was going to be a really cool piece to have because I do work on some very small, like miniature modeling. Not like clay modeling or anything, but like having to cut things off sprues and stuff. And so this felt like it would come in handy in place of like an X-Acto knife if I ever really wanted to break it out to do that. And the very last thing that I want to talk about is just Kershaw. These are 2 Kershaws that I had closest to me when I decided I was going to film this video. I own 6 Kershaws, all sort of in the same size and general framework as the 2 that you see here. But yeah, these were the 2 that I had in front of me. So one is a Rexford design, and it is a manual folder, and this one is a speed safe. This is the oldest one that I have, I think. I had this for many, many years, and you can see I've used it around the house quite a bit. And this one is fairly new, actually. This is in like new condition. This has never been used. And I've just had this one kind of sitting around for sort of a hot minute now. I don't remember. I think I picked it up on Massdrop for reasons that are unknown to me. But, these were kind of brought out. I did bring these out in a live stream recently because, some people like to say, like, oh, you don't own any, like, real knives in the sense that, like, everything's, like, fancy and custom and whatever. But the truth is I do use knives for tons of tasks. And you're right, even though I have a rule that I use every single knife that I own, the amount that I beat on a knife certainly varies depending on which knife it is. And the ones that have to get absolutely beaten on, whether I'm handing it to another person to use or like I'm moving or something, and I just need to I need to have a knife that I can drop, that I can throw to people or slide across the ground, or, it's okay if it hits the ground if I'm breaking down boxes outside on asphalt or something. Just a knife that, you're comfortable breaking if that's what it comes to. So I do have 6 of these laying around in desk drawers and all that stuff. And I typically use these for just the most grueling or disgusting or filthy tasks. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Of course, these aren't very beautiful knives, but if you would like to see pictures of beautiful knives, you can check me out on Instagram at tovarishworks. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Typically here, I do reviews and stuff of really cool knives, really high-end stuff. And if you would like to reach out to me for any reason whatsoever, you can do so by emailing me at tovarishworks@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.